Oyen ran. Her small feet slapped against the cold pavement of Gangnam, her basket of flowers swinging wildly at her side, orange and yellow petals scattering behind her like a trail she could not afford to leave. She did not look back. She could not. Because if she stopped, even for 1 second, a man was going to die. And nobody knew it but her. Before we go further, if you are new here, hit that subscribe button right now because this is exactly the kind of story we tell on this channel. Stay with us. You will not regret it. It had started the way all of Oyen's afternoon started. Quietly, invisibly, the way poor children learn to exist in spaces that were never built for them. She was 9 years old.
Nigerian.
Gap-toothed and bright-eyed, with 2 thick braids that Mama Adeyemi replayed every Sunday morning while humming old Yoruba hymns under her breath. Every day after school, on the days she could attend, Oyen would collect her basket of fresh flowers from the small bucket outside their one-room apartment in Itaewon and walk 40 minutes to the gleaming front entrance of Kongseo Plaza Hotel in Gangnam. It was the most beautiful building Oyen had ever seen. All glass and silver, reaching so high into the Seoul sky that on cloudy days, the top floor disappeared into the mist. Guests arrived in black cars with tinted windows. Women wore shoes that cost more than Mama's monthly rent. Doormen in pressed uniforms held doors open with white-gloved hands. Nobody held doors open for Oyen. She would stand just far enough from the entrance that the doorman, a stocky man named Mr. Cho who smelled of cigarettes and impatience, would not chase her away immediately. She would smile at every person who walked past. She would hold up her flowers gently, never aggressively, the way her mother had taught her. Her mother, Adis Adeyemi, had come from Lagos to Seoul at 22, following a scholarship and a dream. She had worked in a translation firm, spoken 4 languages fluently, and fallen in love with a kind Yoruba man named Femi, who played guitar and laughed with his whole body. They had made a life. A small, beautiful, fragile life. And then one night, a truck driver fell asleep at the wheel on the Incheon Expressway, and Oyen's whole world collapsed into a hospital waiting room and Mama Adeyemi's shaking hands and a silence that never fully went away. Oyen was 6 years old. She barely remembered their faces some days. But she remembered her mother's voice. Patient and musical, switching between Yoruba, Nigerian pidgin, and Korean the way other people switch television channels, effortlessly, naturally, without thinking twice. She had passed all 3 to Oyen like heirlooms. Like something precious you tuck into a child's pocket before a long journey. Language is a key, my Oyen, her mother used to say. You never know which door it will open. On this particular Tuesday, Oyen had sold only 3 flowers by 5 o'clock.
3.
Enough for a sachet of instant noodles, nothing more. Mama would not complain. She never did. But Oyen would see it in the way her grandmother moved around their small kitchen, stretching ingredients, humming a little louder to fill the space where worry lived. So she stayed later than usual. By 5:47, the golden afternoon light had turned amber and long shadows stretched across the pavement. Most of the pedestrian traffic had thinned. Oyen slipped into her favorite spot, a shallow alcove beside the hotel's side entrance, half hidden behind a decorative pillar and an enormous potted plant. She sat on the edge of the low wall, pulled a small piece of bread from her pocket, and pressed her back against the cool stone. She was eating. She was resting. She was invisible. And that was when the side door opened. 2 men stepped out. Security guards. She recognized the uniforms, dark navy with silver badges. They were broad-shouldered and unhurried, moving with the lazy confidence of men who believed they were completely alone. They let the door fall shut behind them and leaned against the wall not 3 meters from where Oyen sat, perfectly still, perfectly quiet, perfectly hidden behind the giant plant. They began to speak. And the language they spoke made Oyen's bread stop halfway to her mouth. Yoruba. Thick and rapid, laced with Nigerian pidgin. Not the careful, classroom Yoruba of a learner. The real thing. The kind that rolled and tumbled and swallowed its own consonants. Idon Set, the taller one said, his voice low and satisfied. The thing day under the seat. Once him enter the car, go off. No walla. The shorter one sucked his teeth. When be the time go happen? 6 o'clock. Sharp, sharp. Bellows say make nobody touch that car. Nobody. And if something go wrong? Nothing go wrong. The man day always on time. Naim own punctuality go kill am. They both laughed, a short, cold sound, and went back inside. The door clicked shut. Oyen did not move. She could not. Her body had turned to stone. Her piece of bread was still in her hand. The flowers in her basket had gone blurry. Her eyes were fixed on the large black car parked at the hotel's grand front entrance, the one with the polished rims and the small flag on the bonnet, the one she had seen sweeping in and out of Kongseo Plaza every evening at the same time, carrying the man who owned all of it.
A bomb.
Under the seat. 6 o'clock. Bello. The name of the head of security, a tall Nigerian man she had seen in the lobby once, walking like he owned the floor beneath his feet. She looked at her watch. 5:49. 11 minutes. She dropped her bread. She grabbed her basket. And she ran. If you're still watching, good. Because it is about to get worse before it gets better. Make sure you are subscribed so you never miss a story like this one. She reached the driver first. A Korean man named Dammy, polishing the bonnet of the black car with a soft cloth, earphones in, completely at peace with the world. Oyen grabbed his arm with both hands. Sir, please, you have to listen to me. There is a bomb. Under the seat. Someone put a bomb in the car. I heard them talking. Please, you have to call someone. Dammy pulled his arm away and looked down at her the way people look at something they have accidentally stepped on.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Get away from the car.
Please.
I am not lying. I heard them with my own ears. I said, get away. He stepped between her and the car door, his face hardening. Do you want me to call security? Yes. Oyen almost screamed it. Call them. Call everybody. Just don't let anyone get in that car. But Dammy was already reaching for his phone. Not to call the bomb squad, not to raise an alarm, but to report a small, hysterical girl who was bothering him outside the hotel entrance. Oyen did not wait. She turned and ran straight through the hotel's front doors. The lobby of Kongseo Plaza hit her like a wall of cold, perfumed air. Marble floors. Crystal chandeliers. A grand piano playing softly in the corner. Every surface gleaming. Every person expensively dressed. And then there was Oyen, 9 years old, worn sandals, flower basket, lungs on fire, sprinting across the lobby toward the reception desk. Please. She slammed her small hands on the marble counter. The receptionist, a young woman with perfect posture and a frozen smile, stared at her. Please, you have to help me. The big man's car, there is a bomb inside it. I heard the guards talking. It will go off at 6 o'clock. Someone has to stop him from getting in. The receptionist's smile did not move. But her eyes did, cutting sideways to something behind Oyen. 2 hands closed around Oyen's arms from behind. How did you get in here? She twisted around. 2 security guards. Different ones, not the ones from outside. Their faces were not cruel, exactly, just utterly indifferent, which was somehow worse. Let me go. You have to listen. There's a bomb in the car. This area is not for you. I am not lying. Please, just check the car, just look under the seat. That is all I am asking. Let's go. They were not rough. That was almost the cruelest part. They were simply efficient, the way you are with something that does not require much thought. They walked her back across the gleaming lobby, past the grand piano, past the chandeliers, past the polished guests who glanced and looked away, and they deposited her through the front doors onto the cold pavement outside. The doors slid shut. Oyen stood there, chest heaving, basket in her hand. The evening air wrapped around her like something indifferent. Across the street, a vendor was packing up a stall. A couple walked past, laughing at something on a phone screen. Everything was completely, terrifyingly normal. She looked at her watch. 5:54. 6 minutes. She looked at the black car. She looked at the hotel doors. She looked down at her flowers, yellow and orange, bright and small, the kind of thing people only notice when they want to, which is almost never. And Oyen Adeyemi, 9 years old, with nothing but a basket of flowers and her mother's words rattling in her chest, Language is a key, my Oyen. You never know which door it will open, made the only decision that felt like herself. She walked back toward the hotel entrance. And she waited. She stood at the edge of the entrance, just outside the reach of the sliding doors, where the doorman could see her but had not yet decided what to do about her. Her basket hung from both hands in front of her. Her braids were slightly undone from all the running. Her heart was hitting the inside of her chest, so hard, she was almost sure the people walking past could hear it. 5:55. Inside the lobby, she could see movement near the elevator bank.
Suits.
Briefcases. The quiet choreography of important people preparing to leave. Then the elevator doors opened, and Jae-won Park walked out. Oyen had seen him before, only from a distance and only briefly, but you always knew when he had entered a room, or in this case a lobby. He was not the tallest man, not the loudest. He did not need to be. He carried himself with the particular stillness of someone who had decided, a long time ago, that the world would come to him and not the other way around. 40 years old, with sharp eyes behind thin-framed glasses, a charcoal suit with no tie, and the kind of face that gave nothing away. His team moved around him like a current around a stone. Bella was there too. Oyen spotted him immediately, tall, dark-skinned, built like someone who had never lost a physical confrontation. He walked 2 paces behind Jae-won's right shoulder, hands clasped in front of him, expression professionally blank. If you did not know what Oyen knew, he looked like exactly what he was supposed to be. Protection. Loyalty. Safety. Oyen's throat tightened. Jae-won reached the front doors. The doorman pulled them open. The small procession began to move outside, and Oyen had perhaps 4 seconds before he reached the car. She moved. Wait. Her voice came out louder than she expected, loud enough that 3 people turned around, including one of the flanking guards, who immediately started moving toward her with a hand already outstretched. "Yeah, get back." But Oyen was faster. She was small, she was desperate, and she had been navigating hostile spaces her entire life. She ducked under the guard's arm, sidestepped left, and planted herself, both feet, full stop, directly between Jae-won Park and the open car door. Time seemed to stretch. Jae-won stopped. The entire procession stopped with him, the way a river stops when it meets a rock it has not encountered before. 2 guards moved to grab her. Jae-won raised one hand, barely, just a slight lift of 2 fingers, and they froze. He looked at her. Not through her. Not past her. At her. With those sharp, unreadable eyes behind the thin glasses, he looked directly at Oyen Adeyemi, and in the silence that opened up between them, she felt it, the weight of having exactly one chance. She lifted her chin. She looked back at him, and she spoke in Yoruba. "Ima wa inu okoyen." Do not get into that car. Something moved in his face. A flicker so small that if you blinked you would miss it entirely. Wen fi bonbu sinuri. Emobo one fun eremi.
Bello and I olori.
Egomi fa and I wen fe pain.
They put a bomb inside it.
I heard them myself. Bello is the one leading it. They plan to kill you at 6 o'clock. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Jae-won stared at her for what felt like a very long time. Behind him, Oyen saw Bello shift his weight. Almost nothing, the tiniest adjustment, but she saw it. She kept her eyes on Jae-won. "How old are you?" Jae-won said. His voice was quiet, controlled. But it was not the voice of a man who was dismissing her. 9, Oyen said. "And you speak Yoruba." "My mother taught me." She said language is a key. She said you never know which door it will open. Her voice cracked slightly on the word mother. She swallowed it down. "Sir, please. I heard them with my own ears. 2 of your guards. They said the device is under the seat. They said 6 o'clock. They said Bello gave the order." She heard movement behind her, quick, decisive footsteps, and then Bello's voice, smooth and professional. "Sir, I apologize for this. The girl has been causing disruptions all afternoon. Security has already removed her once. If you will just allow me." "Stand still." Jae-won said it, without raising his voice, without even looking away from Oyen. But Bello stopped as if he had walked into a wall. Jae-won held Oyen's gaze for another second. Then he reached into his jacket and pulled out his phone. He did not call Bello. He did not call the security desk. He dialed a number from memory, 3 digits, and when the voice answered, he said, calmly in Korean, "This is Park Jae. I need the police and a bomb disposal unit at Kongseo Plaza Hotel in Gangnam immediately. Do not announce it on radio. Move quietly." He hung up. He looked at the guard nearest to him, not one of Bello's men, his personal aide, a younger man named Hyun, and said, "Nobody leaves this entrance. Nobody gets near that car. If Bello or anyone from his team attempts to move, hold them." Hyun nodded and reached for his earpiece. Bello's composure cracked, just barely, just at the edges. "Sir, this is completely unnecessary. The child is clearly disturbed. I said stand still." The next 3 minutes were the longest of Oyen's life. She stepped back from the car door and stood beside a concrete pillar, her basket pressed against her chest, flowers crushed now, petals bent. The street around them was still moving, taxis, pedestrians, a delivery scooter weaving between lanes, completely unaware that 30 meters away, a bomb was sitting under a car seat and a 9-year-old girl was the only reason a man was still alive. Plainclothes officers arrived first, unmarked cars pulling up quietly at both ends of a street. Then 3 vehicles from the Seoul Metropolitan Police Bomb Squad, moving without sirens, without fanfare, parking with a quiet urgency of people who understood exactly what quiet urgency was for. Bello tried to run. He made his move when the officers were still getting out of their vehicles, a sharp turn, 2 fast steps toward the hotel's side entrance. But Hyun was faster. 2 officers closed in from either side. It was over in seconds, Bello's hands behind his back, his face finally showing what had been behind the professional mask all along. Fury, and underneath the fury, fear. The 2 guards from the alcove were identified within minutes. Oyen described them, their height, their uniforms, the particular way the taller one had laughed. Hotel security footage did the rest. Both were detained before they reached the staff exit. At 5:59, a bomb squad technician in full protective gear crouched beneath the black car, reached under the driver's seat, and extracted a device the size of a hardback book, wrapped in gray tape, with a small remote detonator attached. 1 minute to 6 o'clock. Oyen watched from behind the police cordon. Mama Adeyemi had arrived. Someone had called her. Or perhaps she had simply felt it in the way grandmothers sometimes feel things, and she was standing behind Oyen with both arms wrapped tight around her granddaughter's shoulders, her chin resting on the top of Oyen's head, saying nothing, just holding her, rocking very slightly, the way she had rocked her on the night Oyen's parents died. "Oyen," Mama whispered. "My Oyen." Oyen let herself shake. Just for a moment. Just while nobody important was watching. Across the cordon, Jae-won Park stood with his hands in his pockets, watching his head of security being placed into a police vehicle. His face had returned to its usual stillness. But it was a different kind of stillness now, not the smooth surface of a man who had never been touched, but the quiet of a man who had just understood exactly how close the edge had been. He turned. He looked at Oyen across the yellow cordon tape. And he walked toward her. He stopped on the other side of the tape and looked at Mama Adeyemi first, a slight bow of his head, respectful and genuine, and then he crouched down, right there on the Gangnam pavement in his charcoal suit, so that his eyes were level with Oyen's. She had not expected that. The crouching. Somehow that was the thing that nearly undid her completely. "You came back," he said. "After they threw you out. You came back." Oyen nodded. Her voice was somewhere at the back of her throat, hiding. "Why?" he asked. Not in a cold way. In the way of a man who was genuinely asking, who did not yet have the answer and knew it. Oyen swallowed. She looked at him, this powerful, closed-off man crouching on the pavement like it cost him nothing. "Because you were going to die," she said. "And I knew. And if you died, and I had not tried everything, every single thing, then what was the point of my mother teaching me those words?" Jae-won was quiet for a moment. Behind his glasses, something moved in his eyes that did not have a clean name. "What is your name?" he said.
Oyen.
Oyen Adeyemi. What does Oyen mean? She looked at him steadily.
Honey.
In Yoruba. He almost smiled. It was not a large smile, barely a movement at the corner of his mouth, but it was real, which made it more significant than any of the polished, public smiles Oyen had seen on the faces of the wealthy guests walking in and out of his hotel all these months. Oyen, he repeated quietly, as if he was fixing it somewhere he would not lose it. He stood up. He looked at Mama Adeyemi. I would like to speak with you. About your granddaughter. About what happens next. Is that all right? Mama Adeyemi looked at him for a long moment with the particular clarity of a grandmother who has survived many things and is afraid of very few. Then she nodded once. Yes, she said. It is all right. What happened next? Oyen would spend years trying to describe to people and always feel she had not quite gotten it right. Because how do you explain the way a life turns? How do you put into words the exact moment when invisible becomes visible, when dismissed becomes seen, when a basket of bruised flowers becomes the thing that changed everything? In the days that followed, the story spread quickly. Korean news outlets picked it up first. 9-year-old Nigerian girl foils assassination attempt on Gangnam businessman, and within 48 hours it had crossed continents. Nigerian newspapers ran it on their front pages. A clip of the bomb squad removing the device, with Oyen standing small and straight behind the cordon, circulated widely online. People who had never heard of Kongseo Plaza Hotel or Oyen Adeyemi or Itaewon or any of it suddenly had opinions and feelings about all of it. But before all of that, before the cameras, before the headlines, there was a conversation in Jaewon's office on the top floor of the hotel, with Oyen sitting in a chair that was too big for her and her feet not quite touching the floor, and Mama Adeyemi beside her with her handbag on her lap and her spine perfectly straight. Jaewon sat across from them. No security. No aides. Just him, and a desk that was too clean, and a window behind him that showed all of Seoul lit up in the early evening dark. I want to help, he said. Not out of obligation. Not because of what people will say. Because I choose to. He paused. There is a difference. I want you to know that there is a difference. Mama Adeyemi tilted her head slightly. We know the difference, she said. We have seen both. He nodded slowly, as if she had confirmed something he needed confirmed. I want to offer you a proper apartment. A safe neighborhood. Near a good school. He looked at Oyen. A private school. Full scholarship. From now until university. A trust fund, so that when you are grown you have a foundation to build from, whatever you decide to build. Oyen stared at him. She had been in rooms where people made promises before. Promises had a particular sound, slightly too large for the space they were made in, with a hollow echo underneath.
This did not sound like that.
Why? She asked. Not suspicious. Just honest. Because, Jaewon said, I have spent 15 years building things. Hotels, companies, portfolios. I trust systems. I trust numbers. I trust contracts. He looked at her directly. I have not trusted people in a very long time. And today, a 9-year-old girl stood in front of my car and trusted that I would listen. Even after everyone else told her she was nothing. He paused. The least I can do is make sure the world understands what that is worth. Oyen looked at Mama Adeyemi. Mama looked at Oyen. Something passed between them, not words, just the deep, fluent language of two people who have survived together and know each other's silences. Mama Adeyemi turned back to Jaewon. We accept, she said simply. With thanks to God, and with thanks to you. The apartment came first, a clean, bright 2-bedroom in a safe part of Mapo, with a window that caught the morning light and a kitchen big enough to cook properly in. Mama cried when she saw it. Quietly, with her back turned, the way she had always cried, privately, so as not to burden anyone. But Oyen saw.
She always saw.
School started 3 weeks later. Oyen walked through the gates of one of Seoul's finest private schools in a uniform that had been fitted to her size, with a backpack that had been chosen by her, and a quiet, unshakable certainty in her chest that her mother would have laughed with delight at all of it, at the impossibility of it, at the beautiful, language-shaped, door-opening absurdity of how it had come to pass. She was nervous. Of course, she was nervous.
But she was also Oyen.
Gap-toothed, bright-eyed, bilingual Oyen, who had already stood between a bomb and a powerful man and held her ground. School, she decided, would probably be manageable. Jae-won rebuilt his security team entirely, vetting every person from scratch, using outside consultants, taking nothing on faith that could be verified. His business continued, but the way he conducted it began to shift. Quieter, more careful, less ruthless. People who had worked with him for years noticed it without being able to name exactly what had changed. He was the same man, and he was not. He began to visit Oyen school for events, first just the formal ones, then the informal ones too. He sat in small plastic chairs at school concerts and watched a Nigerian girl in a Seoul school uniform stand at the front of the auditorium and recite a Yoruba poem from memory, and he clapped until his palms were red. He called it keeping a promise. Oyen called it showing up. She had decided, quietly, that in her experience, they were the same thing. 6 months after the evening of the bomb, Jae-won Park stood outside a newly renovated building in Itaewon, the same neighborhood where Oyen and Mama had lived in their one room, the same streets Oyen had walked every day with her basket of flowers. The building had a new sign above its entrance, blue and gold, in Korean, English, and Yoruba. The Oyen Adeyemi Community Center. Free tutoring. After-school meals. Language classes. Arts programs. A reading room with books in 12 languages. A small garden in the back that Mama Adeyemi had specifically requested and been specifically given because nobody argued with Mama Adeyemi. Jae-won gave a short speech at the opening. He was not a natural public speaker. He was too precise, too controlled for the warm, loose rhythm of speeches. But what he said was true, and people felt it. I built this because a child taught me something I should have understood much earlier, he said. That the smallest voices in a room are not the least important. They are almost always the most honest. And if you are too proud or too busy or too certain of your own significance to listen, then you are not as safe as you think you are.
He paused.
He looked at Oyen, who was standing to the side in her school uniform, holding Mama's hand, looking faintly embarrassed by all the attention and refusing to show it. She came back, he said. After they threw her out, she came back. That is the whole story. Everything else is just what happened because of that. 1 year after the evening on the Gangnam pavement, Jae-won sat at his desk on the top floor of Kongseo Plaza. The desk was no longer perfectly clean. There were papers, folders, a half-drunk cup of tea. In the corner, a small framed photograph, a girl with a gap-toothed smile and a basket of yellow and orange flowers, taken on the day of the community center opening. He looked at it every morning when he sat down, not as a reminder of how close he had come to dying, as a reminder of what listening looks like, of what courage looks like when it has nothing to lose and chooses to act anyway, of what a key sounds like when it finally finds its door. And in Mapo, in a bright apartment with morning light in the kitchen, Oyen Adeyemi sat at a desk of her own, new, solid, hers, with textbooks open and a notebook full of her careful, ambitious handwriting. Mama's voice floated in from the kitchen, low and hymn-like. Something was cooking that smelled of home. Oyen picked up her pen. She thought of her mother. She thought of the words she had been given and the door they had opened, and the world on the other side of it that she had only just begun to step into. Then she bent her head, and she got to work. That is the story of Oyen Adeyemi, the flower girl who was invisible, who listened when no one thought she was listening, who spoke when everyone told her to be quiet, and who saved a man's life with nothing but the language her mother left her. If this story moved you, if it stayed with you, if it made you think about all the small, overlooked people in your own world, please like this video right now, and leave a comment telling us where in the world you are watching from. We read every single one. And if you're not subscribed yet, do it now, because every week we bring you stories exactly like this one. Stories about courage, about humanity, about the people nobody sees, until suddenly everybody does. We will see you in the next one.